I mean,
oh, man.
Dana's pretty entertaining when he's fired up like that. Kenny Florian joins us, our Fox UFC analyst. So you have to feel for Daniel. Obviously, now he gets Anderson Silva, but at that point, he's probably thinking, I'm going to miss out on a huge payday at this point here.
A huge payday and the ability to get revenge, right? I mean, these guys have been going back and forth for such a long time, and for a guy who is getting ready for his fight, and training so hard, going through the brutal days, day in and day out, and then to be on fight week, cutting weight. You're already cutting weight, so you're already pretty miserable and irritable. And to hear that news, I mean, he just must be devastated.
And where were you when you heard that news?
It's funny because we had just talking to Jon Jones probably 2.5 hours before we had him on UFC Tonight. We were just wrapping up Tough Talk. We were heading down, and one of our producers said Jon Jones tested positive for a banned substance, and I thought he was joking. And he said, "No, I'm serious. The fight is off." And I was just, my mind was blown.
And now it's Anderson Silva, and so sell us on this fight, because you believe this is pretty good for the fans.
I think it's a great fight for the fans. I think it's the most intriguing option. Out of all the guys out there, you talk about the biggest name. You talk about an interesting style matchup, a guy who is very dangerous, and a guy who is undefeated at 205 pounds when he's competed at the weight. So I think that you're going to have Anderson Silva that has his full capacity for energy, for excitement. I think he's going to be a lot bigger, so
2 days
he's going to be more dangerous. That's the other thing. I don't know.
That's so bizarre.
Right. You don't hear that in other sports, you know, even in boxing or whatever. All of a sudden, we have another fight, and Anderson Silva, big name, stepped in, and
it's incredible. I mean, Bisping was 2 weeks, and we're like, oh, I can't do it. There's no way. So maybe that's why now everyone thinks that's what I need. I need to just
does have nothing to lose. This is true. So
let's dive deeper into Jon Jones. First off, do you think he fights again in the UFC?
I think he does. I think he's too big of a star and too talented of a fighter for you to just let go. That's my opinion. For my own selfish reasons, I want to see the guy compete. And I think that's what kind of has everyone so upset. And it's interesting because all fight week, anytime Daniel and Jon Jones were together, Jon always got the cheers, and Daniel was the heel. So I thought that was interesting. Now, probably not the case. I think he has ticked off fans maybe one too many times, and here we are.
Yeah, Daniel gets booed all the time.
He does. I mean, you pointed it out. Why? He's such a nice guy.
I don't know. I think it's more they like Jon Jones, and I don't know. He's an exciting fighter, so I get it.
And then a person that we all like and we work with, Misha Tate, nearly missed the weigh-in and almost pulled out. Do you know what was going on there?
I have no idea. You know, sometimes, here's the thing. She doesn't cut a lot of weight, typically. She's a smaller 135-pound fighter. So I think sometimes you kind of get a little cocky and you think you don't have to do as much work. I'm fine on weight. I usually don't cut so much. And it can creep up on you and surprise you sometimes if you're not careful every single day and approach it like a professional. I'm not saying that was the case, but maybe that was the issue.
How come there's been so many busted fights recently? Is it harder to make weight? Is it harder in training camp? Is it why are we seeing all of this stuff?
I think it's a complicated question because I think as the sport has evolved, fighters are taking a more professional approach. And by that I mean they're training really hard. And when you think about everything you have to do to get ready for a fight, there's the strength and conditioning aspect. There is the jiu-jitsu. There is the wrestling. There is the kickboxing and all those things that go with it. And that means there's a lot of ways to injure your body in that process. And fighters do too much, I think. I think they do too much sparring. I think there's too much wear and tear on the body, and they take a little bit too far, especially those that come from a wrestling mentality that are used to kind of going hard, bro. I think they just do a little too much and end up breaking down their body.
That's just Uriah Faber.
Yeah, that's right.
Exactly.
Hey, bro.
Who needs shoes, bro? Conor and Nate Diaz, they'll be fighting at UFC 202. Thursday, they had their press conference. It was entertaining as usual, but Kenny, I just want you to listen to this because this may be the worst sound system in the history of professional sports. Listen to this.
Okay. Mics are up. These mics are up as well, to be honest, because it's like ricocheting in my head.
With the reverb in here, I don't have any idea what Conor just said. I literally can't hear anything that's being said.
The mic's still
We literally can't hear anything up here. It's weird.
Hey, this arena is beautiful, but these microphones suck. I can't hear I can't hear
Like Dana's already pissed off. Like how many people lost their job after?
Oh, gee, it's like an episode of Punk'd. What was going on? It's pretty funny because that is a new arena. And for some reason, it sounded like they were talking on walkie-talkies from the 80s. You know, it was like it was bad.
It was bad.
That's the first time they've ever agreed on anything.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, they kind of came together. But McGregor said at that press conference, he's the reason the UFC is supposedly worth $4.2 billion. Do you? You might not agree with that, but at this point, with Jon Jones obviously on the sidelines, is he the guy who's carrying the weight for the whole UFC at this point?
Yeah, I mean, listen, is he the reason they're worth $4.2 billion? No, but I think he's a part of the reason, and I also think he's really set a very interesting blueprint for a lot of fighters who want to get into the UFC and who are in the UFC right now. You know, Conor has established himself as a legitimate business, you know, and you know, he knows how to promote a fight, and he goes out there and he executes when he goes out there and fights. And you know, listen, we have a lot of great fighters in the UFC, but there's not a whole lot of people who know how to promote their fights. Then there's guys who know how to promote their fights, but then they can't go out there and execute like Conor. So Conor's the full package, and he'll continue to be a big star.
You're a host on BattleBots. I don't know what network it's on.
That's right.
So are you more scared of UFC fighters or fighting robots?
You know what's funny? Fighting robots for sure, because these things are 250-pound machines that are like screaming into each other.
And they have like saws and
saws and shooting projectiles. And you know, we were hearing stories of some of the robots that didn't get into the tournament. They actually there was one bot that shot projectiles, and it went right through this bulletproof glass that we're protected by. So every time these things collided and like shrapnel was heading our way, I was like, oh, that's it. My head's gonna get cut off. That's it. I'm gonna die.
And then you're doing some acting on Kingdom. Like you're an actor. You're like a superstar. You'd sing, you dance.
That's the next thing I'm gonna say. That would be nice. I would like that.
How did you like the acting thing? Like, is it something you're comfortable with?
It was fun. You know, actually, Kingdom's a really well-written show and just a great show to watch. And I was a fan, and they invited me to come on and play myself, which was very, very difficult.
That's weird.
Yeah, exactly. So I just did exactly what I always do and just interviewed fighters or called a fight, and I had a lot of fun, man. Every single person on that show was so nice, so down to earth, so not what everyone talks about. Even Nick Jonas.
Oh, yeah?
He was cool.
Well, and Bobby Diaz, our audio guy, who's a big part of this show, pointed out you look like Ben Stiller. So you and Ben Stiller could do like a film where you play twins.
Zoolander 3.
There it is.
Let's do it.
Zoolander
Long
2
Lost
is a disaster. We'll redeem ourselves in Zoolander 3.
Can you give us a blue steel look?
Sure. Which camera?
Yeah,
right here?
Yeah.
I have to turn away.
Okay.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Did I sell it? Did I sell it?
Sold it big time.
Hey, have you ever had a near-death experience? I've had none.
I've had quite a few on the way to this interview.
But you've had a bunch, and you wrote
LA
about
traffic, man. Oh yeah. I had a few.
How many?
I had a few. Well, I guess I don't know. I probably. I mean, there was a couple that were close. Like me cutting down to 145 pounds, I was probably close to death. That was the closest I ever felt to death, I think. But falling off a mountain in Brazil was definitely the scariest thing, because I'm actually afraid of heights. And like an idiot, I walked off this path that was on like this. There's this famous rock in Brazil, in Rio de Janeiro. It's called Gavia Rock, and I was climbing down, and I went off the normal path where you're supposed to be hiking. And there was all this kind of wet grass and moss, and I slipped, and I was sliding down an incline feet first, and I had this tank top on, because I'm a tough guy, and my buddy grabbed me to like save my life, and he couldn't hold on. So now he held onto my shirt, and now he spun me. So now I'm going head first down a mountain on an incline like this.
Perfect, at least you can see where you're going.
Right, exactly. So then all of a sudden I just feel air, and I'm just dropping, and I literally had that whole moment where I see my whole life flash before my eyes. And it was probably like a second before I hit the ground. But I remember just thinking, I'm like, man, I'm going to die in a mountain in Brazil? This is crazy.
This is how Florian's going to go?
Yeah, that's something so much more dramatic than this. But I fell on a rock about, like, maybe a little bit bigger than this table. And it was on a ledge. And if I didn't fall on this ledge, on this rock, I would have fallen off another ledge. And then it would have been like hundreds of feet.
Wow.
So this rock like saved my life and knocked the wind out of me. One of my friends is crying up top because he couldn't see where I was, where I landed. And then they saw that I was alive. I started laughing.
I thought you were gonna have the scene out of a movie where you grab onto like a branch.
Right. Yeah, and just hold on.
It's sticking.
And then, I got you, bro. And then he just barely pulls you up.
Didn't happen that way.
No.
Yeah.
But you lived to post things on Instagram, and we loved what you post on Instagram.
Oh man,
this is your
Look at
6th
that.
birthday party. Just an incredible bowl cut. But Kenny,
that's the Pete Rose.
That's a Pete Rose cut, but that's nice. But we also found this. It's a young Dan O'Toole.
Yes. Yes.
Very
See?
similar, like brothers from another mother.
I'm telling you, Dan. They got to bring this haircut back. I think
No,
for adults.
do not.
It's
For
sharp.
adults.
No.
Why not? It will come back.
We've
You'll
done
see.
everything
in our lifetime.
Is your hair covering your ears just like mine?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
It looks like a helmet. It doesn't even look like hair. It's weird.
That was
That
a
was
Raggedy
disturbing.
And I thought that was a Raggedy Ann doll, but it was a Raggedy Andy.
Yeah, Raggedy Andy also was not a popular doll. You were the only one who had. Did you ask for a Raggedy Andy for Christmas?
Hey, it's better than My Buddy.
Yeah, my buddy was.
My Buddy was a creepy toy.
Yeah, he really was. Well, this interview ended very strangely, Kenny, but we really appreciate you
As
being
I
here.
expected. Good.
Thanks,
Good.
man.
Yeah.
We'll be back after this.